Have you ever asked yourself why a certain person just won't leave your thoughts? Even after months or even years, when life has moved forward and circumstances have changed, their presence lingers. Not in your day-to-day life, but in your mind. Their face, their voice, a single memory, appearing in the quiet moments, showing up in dreams, or echoing in a song that seems to hit you in a way nothing else does. Why does this happen? Is it because of love that never faded? Regret over what was lost? Guilt? Or is it something even deeper, something rooted in parts of yourself you're not fully aware of? Carl Jung, one of the great pioneers of psychology, believed that when someone repeatedly resurfaces in your thoughts, it's rarely random. These recurring impressions often signal something hidden within your unconscious, quietly asking to be acknowledged. Chapter 1. The Collective Unconscious. Jung introduced the concept of the collective unconscious, a vast invisible layer of the human psyche shared by all people. It's a reservoir of symbols, emotions, and experiences that lie beneath awareness but shape our perceptions of reality. According to Jung, some people in our lives don't merely leave behind personal memories. They leave energetic imprints in this deeper field. So when someone repeatedly appears in your mind, it may not be about them at all. Instead, it may be your unconscious signaling unresolved emotions, unfinished stories, or lessons you've yet to fully process. The human psyche doesn't cling to what is irrelevant. It holds tightly to what still matters, to what is emotionally unfinished. Whether it's love that was never spoken aloud, pain that was never fully felt, or a version of yourself that got lost in the past, your unconscious keeps carrying it forward, waiting for you to pay attention. Chapter 2. Memory lives in emotion. Have you ever heard a song that instantly pulled you back into a moment you thought you'd left behind? That stomach drop feeling isn't just nostalgia, it's emotional memory. The human brain doesn't store life in a neat timeline. It doesn't care about dates or years. Instead, it stores emotion. And when an experience is never fully processed, it stays active beneath the surface, waiting like a loop that's desperate to close. Maybe it was a conversation that ended too soon, a goodbye that never truly felt final, or a relationship that collapsed before the questions had answers. For your unconscious, it doesn't matter if it's been weeks or decades. If the emotion was strong and the ending incomplete, that experience continues to live on inside of you. And so, one random smell, one familiar place, one passing song, and suddenly it all rushes back. Not because you're weak or stuck, but because part of you never fully sat with it. Chapter 3. People as symbols, not just people. Sometimes the person you can't stop thinking about isn't really about them. It's about what they represented in your story. The unconscious speaks in symbols. It doesn't hold on to literal details as much as it holds on to meaning. Jung called these patterns archetypes, universal figures embedded deep in the human psyche. The lover, the mentor, the rebel, the betrayer, the lost child. When you meet someone who embodies an archetype, they leave an imprint, not because of who they were in day-to-day life, but because of what they reflected back to you. Maybe they embodied freedom at a time you felt trapped. Maybe they carried intimacy when you were numb. Maybe they awakened a part of you that had been asleep for years. You're not really obsessing over them. You're remembering a piece of yourself through them. They were the mirror, the symbol, the message. Chapter 4. Projection and the Shadow. Jung also spoke of something called projection. This is when we unconsciously project our own inner traits, fears, or unclaimed strengths onto others, like a film being cast onto a movie screen. Think about it. Sometimes we're drawn to someone instantly, captivated by their charisma or confidence. That pull often reflects a hidden part of ourselves longing to emerge. On the other hand, sometimes we're irritated by someone we hardly know. Their behavior triggers us, not because of who they are, but because they reflect something in ourselves we've rejected. This is the shadow, the hidden side of the personality, the anger, the desire, the ambition, or the vulnerability we've been taught to suppress. We bury these traits deep, pretending they don't exist, but they don't disappear. Instead, they appear in others, loud and unavoidable. The stronger your reaction to someone, the more likely they're reflecting something inside you that needs attention. And until you recognize what part of yourself they're mirroring, your unconscious will keep bringing them back, not to torture you, but to wake you up. Chapter 5. Why they linger in your nervous system. Some people don't just walk through our lives, they embed themselves. Even after you've convinced yourself you've moved on, they linger. Why? Because the emotional brain doesn't operate on logic. It runs on feeling. Whenever you experience intense emotions, love, heartbreak, betrayal, joy, your brain creates powerful neural pathways linking that person to those feelings. A certain smell, a familiar place, or a song can fire those pathways instantly, making it feel like the experience is happening all over again. It's not a sign that you're broken. It's simply the way your brain is wired to remember, especially when endings were incomplete. Jung compared this to an unfinished contract in the unconscious. If something wasn't fully processed, your psyche continues to circle back, searching for resolution. It's unfinished business, and your mind won't let it rest until the loop is closed. Chapter 6. Synchronicity. When the universe reflects your inner world. Ever notice that when you're trying to forget someone, coincidences seem to pull them back? Their name appears on a billboard. A song plays that echoes your feelings. They even text you out of the blue. Carl Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that feel too precise to be chance. These moments aren't necessarily magic, but they are symbolic. They happen when the outer world mirrors your inner world. When your unconscious is still charged with emotion, the universe has a way of reflecting that back through symbols, timing, and events. Synchronicity is less about the person themselves and more about what they awakened in you. Longing, fear, or unfinished wounds. It's an invitation to pay attention, not to chase after signs, but to notice what themes keep repeating in your life. Who keeps showing up? What emotions follow them? What is your psyche asking you to see that you've been avoiding? Chapter 7. Archetypes and roles. People play in your life. Sometimes the person stuck in your mind has transformed from a flesh and blood human into a symbol, an archetype that your unconscious is still integrating. Maybe they were the mentor, the guide who helped you through darkness, and you're still carrying the lesson they offered. Maybe they were the lover, cracking you open, exposing your deepest vulnerability, leaving you raw but alive. Maybe they were the shadow figure, triggering your anger, jealousy, or unclaimed strength, forcing you to confront parts of yourself you'd buried. Maybe they were the warrior, someone whose courage you admired, who showed you a side of yourself you hadn't yet awakened. People often play far larger roles in our lives than they realize. They awaken archetypes within us, and when they leave, it's not just the relationship we grieve, it's the part of ourselves they unlocked. But here's the gift. Once you recognize the role they played, you can integrate it. You realize they were never the destination, only the catalyst. They were a chapter, not the entire book. Chapter 8. The Path of Individuation. Carl Jung's ultimate teaching on this is found in his idea of individuation, the process of becoming whole. Not perfect, not flawless, but complete. Individuation is the journey of facing every part of yourself, the conscious and unconscious, the light and shadow, the self you show to the world and the self you hide. And sometimes the person you can't stop thinking about is the spark that begins that journey. They are not the end goal, they are the doorway. When you feel stuck in their memory, it's not because you can't let go of them. It's because a part of you is still waiting to be reclaimed. Maybe it's the child who wanted to be chosen, the dreamer who believed in love, the shadow who longed to be seen. Healing doesn't mean erasing the past. It means integrating what they awakened in you, reclaiming your voice, your truth, your longing, your strength. When you do this, the emotional grip loosens, not because you forced yourself to forget, but because the lesson is complete. Chapter 9. The real question. So if someone still lives in your thoughts, the question isn't, how do I forget them? The real question is, what part of myself are they reflecting that I haven't yet embraced? Because freedom doesn't come from slamming the door shut on memories. It comes from finally opening it, walking through and claiming what was yours all along. In the end, it was never truly about them. It was always about you. If this message stirred something within you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Someone else might be walking the same silent path, waiting for a sign that they're not alone. Stay grounded, stay thoughtful, stay awake. For more deep dives into philosophy, the human experience, and timeless truths, subscribe and turn on the bell. Wander the void with wonder, question deeply, think freely. Until next time, embrace the silence and let it speak.